What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Paul and I make videos about Japanese society, life, and culture from the viewpoint of a long-term foreign resident. I've been here for going on 19 years now, and a few weeks ago I made a video where I talked about the things I felt were overrated by tourists and other visitors to Japan. And today I'm going to do service to the opposite idea, which is what are the things that are underrated in Japan for tourists and visitors and even possibly residents in this country. So before I get into the four things I'm going to talk about today, I actually want to do a quick correction on that previous video, or more accurately, a clarification. After talking to some friends, there was some misunderstanding about what exactly I meant about saying convenience stores are overrated. Got a bit of pushback on that, but after talking with them in more detail, they realized what I was actually getting at, which tells me I wasn't really clear enough in the original video. I am not saying convenience stores in Japan are bad. They're probably the best in the world. They're great for a snack, maybe picking up breakfast, because not a lot of places are open in the morning, definitely getting drinks, etc. All I was getting at was, do not substitute a meal for food at the convenience store. Don't give up a restaurant chance to get a full meal at a convenience store. Snacks, something on the go, that's all fine, but don't sacrifice a meal in Japan when you're only here for 10 days to convenience store food. That's not worth it. Okay, let's get into today's list, which is the underrated, underappreciated things about Japan. The first one is probably going to confuse you because the first thing I'm going to say is underrated in Japan is Kyoto. Now you're probably thinking, wait a second, tourists all go to Kyoto. Tourists all rave about Kyoto, have a great time there. Yeah, fair enough. But I think there's a lot of Kyoto that goes way under everyone's radar because tourists tend to go to all the same places in the same order and at the same times as all the other tourists. That's where I think the problem arises. And so actually I'm not going to go into details in this video because I'm actually going to Kyoto next month on a trip, and I'm going to film there, and I'm going to basically produce the Contrarian's Guide to Kyoto. So look for that video and I'll give you all the tips on how to have a different experience there from all the other tourists. Okay, the next underrated thing in Japan that is worth checking out is going to seem like the opposite of the overrated thing I just mentioned in my clarification: convenience stores. The underrated thing is Japanese supermarkets. Now, I'm not saying you should go to a supermarket and substitute a meal, the food there, for like an actual restaurant meal. No, don't do that. But what a supermarket is, it's a window into the daily life and the daily consumer habits of real Japanese people. So while you'll get a slice of Japanese cuisine by going to restaurants, if you go into a supermarket, you're going to see what people actually buy and eat and cook on the daily basis. This is actually not just a tip for Japan, to be honest. I always tell my Japanese students that when they visit a new country, they should go to the local markets, go to the local supermarkets, see how life is different there in that respect. I love going to new supermarkets and markets in other countries, whether it be Singapore, Australia, France, Italy. I mean, there's so many things that you'll see in that place that will let you know how the daily life of the people there is different. Simple example, if you go into an American supermarket, you're going to see the giant cold breakfast cereal aisle, enormous. That has a tiny, tiny little section in Japan, and it's mostly granola. Compare that to the giant nori or seaweed aisle. There's more seaweed products than you could possibly have imagined until you see it. It's basically the cereal aisle, but instead it's seaweed. So that's just one small example of how you can get an idea of real daily life in Japan. Because let's be honest, you can learn history and the deep origins of Japanese culture by going to the shrines and temples and museums, but you're going to learn more about real daily life of Japanese people by going to the supermarket than you will at those other places. The next thing I'm going to talk about also has to do with shopping, and that is any kind of second-hand goods store in Japan. Honestly speaking, it's amazing second-hand shopping in Japan, because in Japan the stores really curate what they have on their shelves. It's always going to be the highest quality. If you go into a clothing store, you're not going to find clothes with stains and holes and that smell funky. If you go into an electronics store, there'll often be guarantees. The gimbal that is currently keeping my camera stable, I bought secondhand, and it came with a 2-month guarantee, so if it didn't work, I could just take it back. I have a good friend who collects vinyl LPs, and he says that in those stores, the staff are trained to always ask if he has checked them to see if there's any flaws or scratches or any problems. And he says he doesn't even bother anymore. He just says, no, it's fine, because there's never a problem. And if you're into brand goods, if you're into like high-end watches and jewelry, I have a friend who just visited me from the States, and he and his wife were hitting up these stores like you wouldn't believe, getting watches and handbags and things because the quality is top-notch. They look basically brand new, and because the yen is so weak right now, they're basically a steal price-wise as well. And that was a dead end. So one of the things you know about Japan is there's a lot of no outlet streets that don't mark themselves as no outlet. If I had a new subscriber for every dead end I've walked in making these videos, I'd like have 1 million subscribers, seriously. All right, to review, in about a month from now, I'm going to go to Kyoto, and I will be dropping a video that will explain how you can best enjoy that wonderful city and avoid the crowds at the same time. Also, my recommendation is to check out supermarkets if you get the chance, not to replace a meal, but just to see the slice of culture that you can get there, and to shop at secondhand shops whenever you can. If you have the opportunity and you find them, they're definitely worth checking out. The final one I'm going to talk about today is an entire city that I believe is underrated, and that is my current hometown, Yokohama. Everyone comes to Japan and thinks Tokyo, 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 Osaka, Osaka, Kyoto, 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 and maybe some places outside of there like Hiroshima, especially for the Peace Park, etc. But Yokohama is underrated. There is a lot to do and see here that is worth your time, and there's lots of really great food here to try out as well. Hotel prices are going to be cheaper than Tokyo because it's not on the same tourist track as everyone who goes to Tokyo, Tokyo, Tokyo. What can you do in Yokohama? You can check out Chinatown. You can check out Minato Mirai, which is like one of the most famous night views in all of Japan. Not to mention that entire area has amazing shopping and restaurants. There is the red brick warehouses, which are part of Japan's history of opening to the West. And basically during the 19th century, Japan opening up to the world as a port city. So many firsts came into Japan through Yokohama. Ice cream, beef hot pot, the first buffet style restaurant. Also in Yokohama is the giant 1-to-1 scale size moving Gundam. If you are a Super Gundam fan or anime otaku, it's definitely worth checking it out. And a viewer recently commented that they actually had one of the best burgers they've ever had at the cafe there, believe it or not. Just to go into a little bit more detail, the same friend that I was talking about earlier who was going crazy in the secondhand shops had the extra money to do so because they stayed in Yokohama. And they stayed in the Yokohama Sheraton, which is right by Yokohama Station. Super convenient, not sponsored, but basically he told me that it was half to like a third the price of places they looked at that were similar in Tokyo, and just by virtue of staying down in Yokohama saved a ton of money. And Yokohama Station can get you everywhere in Tokyo in very little time anyways, so they actually spent a bunch of time in Tokyo and didn't feel like they had missed out because they stayed in Yokohama. One other thing to do in Yokohama is check out the Yokohama Bay Stars baseball team. If you're into baseball and you're here during the season, go to a game, or check out all the baseball memorabilia stores that are around the stadium. It's a pretty cool place to check out. I did a whole deep dive into Japanese baseball in another video interview with my friend Jennie. I will link that in the description below. Please check that out if you're interested in Japanese baseball. But overall, Yokohama is a wonderful, wonderful city, and it's got this kind of laid-back atmosphere compared to Tokyo. My friend that visited said that was the other thing they appreciated. Tokyo feels frantic, crowded, fast, and while Yokohama is a big city with a lot of people, it's really a step back to a little bit more gentle pace. So day trip up to Tokyo, go around to the places you want to see there, but if you want to relax a little bit more in the evenings and in the mornings, Yokohama is not a bad choice, and it's not inconvenient either. Hey, this is Editor Paul here. I just wanted to add something in that I meant to say and then failed to do so yesterday when I filmed. And that is, Yokohama is also a place to get away from the foreign tourist crowds, actually. There's not as many foreign tourists down here. And if you're like me and you want to kind of escape from the normal tourist routes from time to time and not just be surrounded all the time where the only Japanese people seem to be like the shop staff or something, and like there's no just ordinary Japanese people going on about their day. If you want to see like a slice of interesting Japan where it's not just packed with foreign tourists, Yokohama also serves that purpose. So just wanted to add that. Okay, so that's my list of 4 things. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, remember to drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.